Hey kids, welcome back to another week of Oldman Plays CFL Fantasy Football. I am, of course, your host, Oldman, shouting at clouds. And hey, I'm in the semifinals, the Final Four. Made it through the first round of the CFL Podcast League's Playoffs. Managed to score 119.1 over Cooper Trooper 42, Ryan Coop from Canadian Football Countdown had 108.8, so I managed. He's a very good player. Been in the final the last 2 years, and I beat him 2 weeks in a row to get to this point. So yay, raise the roof. I'm a happy man. I go on up against RougeDalts, who I'm not sure exactly who that is, but they're from Rouge Radio, and I'm guessing maybe the name is Dalton. Just supposition. We'll see how we do. We're both rookies this year. And I'd love to make it on past him, but we'll see. There's a certain amount of luck involved. You know, last week I loaded up heavy with Nathan and McInnes and Hatcher, and they got between them 3 touchdowns and a bunch of yards, and that kind of propelled me over the top. But anyway, we're coming to the end here. Like I said, I'll be doing this right up to week 21, regardless of how I go in the playoffs, but I realized I don't think I ever sort of told you maybe the strategy behind a lot of these moves I make. I talk about teaming up players with quarterbacks. I talk about going low on defenses and whatnot. But here's the reason for it. You can get really complicated if you start talking about the fact that one of the players is a captain and doubles points and all that, and it can get your head a little confused. So I just go back to basics, which is you've got $70,000 to get so many points. Normally, if you get 100 points in a game, if you shoot for that average, you usually win a game if you're up against somebody else, because the totals fluctuate. For instance, last year when I look back over the season, I found I was always about 30 points below the highest scorers on the board for all of the CFL. So if the highest scorers had 160 points, I had 130. If the highest scorers had 100 points, I had 70. So it tells you that the play in the week depends a lot on your total count. But if you can fit into that range 100 points that you're shooting for, I find that gives you a pretty good solid way to a win. So that tells me that if I'm paying for a player, I've got to get 1.5 points per $1,000 I spend on them. My $15,000 stars, I've got to get 22.5 points at least to make it justified. Whereas my 2.5, if I can find somebody who's a steal down there and maybe gets a bit, he only needs 3.75 points. So if he blows up and gets 7 or 8, that helps my team overall. And what goes along with that is why I go with a cheap defense, because defenses are awful hard to earn their points. It's a cheaper week for defenses this week. Normally, the top ones have been running about 10K, but this week, Saskatchewan's the top one. It's down at 8.6K. Still means I need to get 12.9 points out of them, which they're capable of, but you can't count on an every-game basis, and especially with this week, with the backfield the way it is. We'll talk about that. My cheapest one still, Ottawa at 4.7. I got to get 7.1 out of them, which I'm not going to get. If I'm lucky, I'll get 3 or 4. If I'm unlucky, I'll be a minus 3 or 4. But it leaves me money to spend on other players who will get that for me. So that's basically what I'm doing going into it. Now, I talked about teaming players up. Like, for instance, I could go with Rourke last week, and I was happy to see the 2 touchdowns from Hatcher, but he's not always so much a touchdown machine. I also had McInnes in, who got me 1, and he does. So every time that Nathan passes to McInnes, I get 6 or 7 points for McInnes on the touchdown, and I get the 4 points for Nathan. And if you can double that up, it's a strategy that's worked well for me over the years. So anyway, I should have said at the start, you can skip through all of this if you already know it. But let's start. That's basically how I approach the game. Let's start talking about the actual week and what have I seen through the depth charts or injury reports where I've had to. Well, Saskatchewan's probably the biggest news overall. On offense, Myers is out, and he's been a big chunk of that. So where will those throws go to be picked up? Maybe by Robustelli, but he's a different sort of player than Myers was. I'm thinking Neal might pick some of them up. He's turned into the other sort of deep threat, strangely enough, for them. So he might be a way to go. We'll talk about that within the games. But anyway, Myers is out, but the big news is in the defense. Milligan is out. Lacumba's out. Campbell is out. 3 of their starting 6, basically, when you count the 5 DBs and the strong side linebacker. Now, they have moved Rivas back to safety, and that worked last week. And Antoine Brooks III came in and played Sam, and that worked. But we've still got I believe, a first-time starter replacing Milligan at boundary half, and that's Redwine. I don't think he's been out there before. And we've still got Sapp in for Campbell, but our backup is Exame, and we know what happened last time Saskatchewan played with him at corner. It was an ugly thing. So keep that in mind. Now, on the other side, how much will Toronto be able to take care of that? Because they don't have Arbuckle, of course. He's out for the season now. They're running with Daigie for the rest of the season. They've reshuffled their O-line again. And so, how dangerous will they be, especially against that Saskatchewan pass rush? But if they get the passes off, Daigie scored 29 points against Hamilton last week. And this is a hurt defense on Saskatchewan. It's a hard thing to pick. Daigie may not be a stupid choice. You know, he could easily put up 300 yards and a couple of touchdowns and still lose the game. But if that lets you make somebody else your captain and spend money on another big name, that might be worthwhile. Anyway, also McManus is out. I don't know how much of a difference that makes because he's been playing hurt and he just hasn't been the same impact player. So we'll see. Moving on, Hamilton. Basically pretty much the status quo. Although I will mention when I was looking at the depth charts, I noticed that O'Leary Orange backs up Smith. And I wonder, does that mean you never see them on the field at the same time? So is there like a Superman Clark Kent thing going here? Did O'Leary Orange just let the glasses slip a little bit last weekend with his 2 for 2 for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns? I'm sorry, my weirdness going in. Anyway, moving on. They're playing Calgary. Calgary on the offense is pretty much status quo, but it hasn't looked great. And on the defense, they've released Richardson. He's gone. Webb is out, which is going to be a big hurt. He's one of the best DBs in the league and has been doing really well at safety for them there. And their new prize acquisition, Malden, is out. So not looking great for Calgary fans. I'm sorry, Stamps fans. Winnipeg, I don't know for sure because, surprise, surprise, even though their depth charts are supposed to be out, they're not. So by injury reports, basically it says Dembski is doubtful and Carrick Wheatfall is questionable. Take that for what you may. I don't know that I'd be touching either of them. The Elk, it's pretty much status quo on them, although it looks like Brinkman might be back in and available. Or no, sorry, they have a depth chart for them. Brinkman is back in, and so will that shore up their line against Brady O? Don't know. And then Ottawa and Montreal, of course, were back on injury reports. Ottawa lists Drew Brown as did not participate with knee, but I think that's just to save some egos there because I think they've decided to go with Crum the rest of the way. And more importantly, Drew Desjarlais, who's been playing, I think, right tackle for them, was limited day 1 and did not participate day 2. So against that Montreal pass rush, it might not matter who's playing quarterback. And Montreal, the only one of note was Tyler Sneed, was fine on the first day of practice. Second day missed, did not participate due to illness. Will that carry into the weekend? Don't know. So anyway, those are the injury report sort of things. So now we'll move on to sort of the individual games and teams and see where that takes us. So we start up the weekend with Toronto at Saskatchewan. And again, keep in mind, Daigie's the quarterback, so will there be anybody there worthwhile? For Toronto. I'm not sure. Mattel and Brissett have been fairly solid. They're not generally going to put up, 30 points for you or something like that, but they get around about 50 yards a game. They get 4 to 5 catches. So there's your 10 points, and they do get a touchdown every few games, so they might be worthwhile. Herslow, I'm backing off of. I mean, he may have a big weekend against this beat-up Saskatchewan defense, and I would certainly take him if they had Arbuckle in there. But I've seen he's great for points when he's on, but he's a big play player. He's going to get you 3 or 4 points, or he's going to get you 18 or 20 points. But there's no in between, and it's a bit of a gamble. So I've kind of go on and off there. On the Saskatchewan side, I think AJ is pretty much a lock. They're going to probably want to run him all night. You might even want to look at taking Bertrand Houdon as a cheap option, although he's $4K, so it's not that cheap. But if he gets in there, he makes things happen. So I'd certainly look at that. Otherwise, as I said, maybe Neild, who might pick up some of the slack from Myers being out. Johnson is usually a good bet. He gets about 5-6 catches and 70-80 yards, so, about 10-12 points. And if he throws in a touchdown every now and then, that's an extra bonus. And like I said, Robustelli in there has looked reasonable at times, so you might want to consider that. That takes us on then to when when Calgary goes into Hamilton and takes them on. And Calgary, it's just all too inconsistent, other than maybe Mills. Hamilton hasn't got the greatest run defense, so maybe Mills. But anyone else, Philpott, does average about 4 catches a game and about 40 yards, so 8 points, and he's been picking up on that lately, but I don't feel it there. And on the Hamilton side, well, Keandre Smith is still, I think, about 8K, which is a steal, I think. So I'd definitely look at him. And Lawler still gets, 5 catches, about 80 yards, so you're into the 13 points, and he throws in enough touchdowns, you might be up to 20, 25. Greg Bell, I might stay away from in this game. They may be running it hard. They've been doing that a lot more, and he may fool me. He may blow up for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns and make me look like an idiot. But I think that Markel Lee is an improvement in the Calgary linebacker core, and I think it'll be much easier to pass than run against them, and that's the way Hamilton's going. That's my take. Now, I do think that Bo is a real good choice here at quarterback, and I probably will end up taking him. In the other 2 games, or in the other earlier game, Trevor might be okay, but it's so hard to know how they're going to play it. They may just run and run and run all night. And with Toronto, of course, Daigie, like I said, you're taking a chance there. You're hoping you get good points out of what you're paying for him and get your captaincy somewhere else. So that takes us in Winnipeg at Edmonton. And Winnipeg, Oliveira's probably going to be very good. I wouldn't be taking too many receivers in this game. Normally maybe Dembski, but with him doubtful, I'd stay away from that. And from what I hear, it's going to be about 9 degrees and possibly raining. So it's going to be a running game. It's made for Brady. But it's also made for Justin Rankin. And that's who I would probably take on the Edmonton side of the ball. If he starts getting loose, he's not going to be like Brady. He's not going to get 10 yards a run or 6-7 yards a run and then 10 and occasionally break one for 15 or 20. But if they get him loose, he's gone for 60, 70 yards, and he's got such speed. So definitely a thought there. The only other receiver I might consider is Julian Grant. He's about on par with Gittins Jr. as far as catches and yardage go. They're both about 4 catches a game for about 40, 50 yards. So there's 9 points. But Julian Grant has more of a touchdown impact than Gittins Jr. For the Monday game, we're going with just injury reports. We still don't have depth charts, but I think we know what's going on there. So who would I take? Well, Stevie Scott III with Montreal will probably be a low-priced running back, so he might be worth looking at, depending on, is he in the 4s or the 8s? I don't know. He is starting, so he should get some kind of points. Tyson Philpott's been coming on lately. I haven't seen what his price is, but he's come back from injury, and he's certainly worthwhile. And then Tyler Snead, except he's showing his illness, so even if he's playing, will he be at 100%? And then on the Ottawa side, probably Justin Hardy, regardless of whoever's in there. And the more that I think about it, with Desjardins being out, Crum may be the more mobile and better quarterback to play. So Justin Hardy's always been pretty good. He's always up there in yardage. He averages about 6-7 catches a game and 75 yards maybe. So, 13 points. And he's good for a touchdown every couple of games, basically. So certainly worthwhile. And then I'm less hot on Eugene Lewis, but you never know. He's got about 5 catches and about 70 yards, and his touchdowns aren't where they've been in the past, but it might be worthwhile. So that's it. That's sort of the information we have going on in here. Let's fire up Fantasy on the old computer here and put a team together and see what we get. Okay, and here we go now. Now, at quarterback, I talked about the fact Rourke's not playing this week, so he's usually now the solid pick. But I talked about the fact that I liked Bo because he's been solid and consistent all year. Yeah, he's had the off game here and there, but they're very rare. The only concern I have going that way is Bell's been running a lot better. If they go run heavy, then I could be hooped. But I think there'll be less of a chance for the run to work. I think the pass will probably work better for them, and they'll probably make use of that. So I'm going to go with Bo. Now, the other one I didn't mention was either Davis Alexander or probably Dustin Crum for Ottawa. And Crum is not the worst choice, but he's 11.9, so you save $3,000 on that. If that makes a difference for you where you can get another really good receiver you're really confident in or a running back you really want, then you might want to consider that. Alexander, on the other hand, is up at $15,000, and while he could go off for a bunch of yards and a bunch of touchdowns against Ottawa, he hasn't consistently done that. That's not been their game plan. They've been much more of the sort of dink and doink and lean on the defense, stopping the other team and score their 20 to 30 points and that. So he scares me. So I'm going with Mitchell here. Oh, and then there was Fajardo in Edmonton and Zach, of course, which I didn't talk about. I've ruled that out because of the weather conditions there. So, moving ahead, I also said at running back, I like the idea of going with A.J. Ouellette this week. Rankin and Oliveira are both great choices too, but I suspect Saskatchewan will be run heavy, and A.J. is taken over for touchdown Tommy Stevens on the short yardage, so he may pick up 2-3 touchdowns from the 1 yard line. So I think he is an excellent bet there. Now, I'll jump past the other running back and go to wide receiver. And here I'm going to want to take from Hamilton. I'll just get up here and put Hamilton on there right now, because I do know if I've got Bo, I think Lawler is at $14,000, not quite 15, and he's been off and on, but I have a feeling this is a game that he will probably be on for. And then Keandre Smith at $6,000 is still the steal of the league, so I'm definitely going there. All right, so that means I now have $20,000 left, and I need to get myself a flex player, a running back, and a defense. Well, let's see what we can do first of all, because defense I'm happy to go the minimum on, and that would be, again, Ottawa at 4.7. Now, do they get me 7 points? I doubt it, but that leaves me some range around here. So I've got $15,000 left, so let's look at around $5,000 for a running back and $10,000 for a flex. How about we do that? So let's put the price in here at our 4 to 6 and see who we've got. We got Bertrand Houdon at 4.5, which might be good, but we've also got Stevie Scott, 4.9, and he's a starting running back. So even though Ottawa's got a great run defense, I think he's at that price is quite good. And that means we now have 10.4 left for a flex player. Let's see, first of all, our over 10K and set it up by price and change that around so we get the cheapest ones first. 10K Curly Gittin Jr. might be a possibility, but we've got Brissett. Sean Bain, he's out. And Micaiah Polk, he's at 11, so he's above our range. So that tells me to Brissett, because as I said earlier, he's been averaging about 4 to 5 catches and 40 to 50 yards a game, so he's good for at least 10 points, and he may get some more. And then we got to make somebody the captain, so that's going to be Bo again. So there's my team, the Ottawa Redblacks defense. Bo Leva Mitchell from Hamilton at quarterback. My running backs will be A.J. Ouellette out of Saskatchewan and Stevie Scott III out of Montreal. My wide receivers are both from Hamilton, Kenny Lawler and Keandre Smith. And my flex is Dijon Brissett. And that's it. Locked in. We're done. Alrighty then. Them's my picks with the usual caveat. Use them at your own peril. We'll see. I'll be back next week, like I said, regardless of win or lose. And I'll let you know. Fingers crossed that maybe I can keep going one more round. Keep the miracle running going. Please, if you've stayed this long in the video, take the time to subscribe to us. It helps us so much. On podcast, on YouTube, do them both. Even if you don't watch, they're both. It does help us out. If you're enjoying this, help out the other potential folks who might enjoy it too. The ones that just haven't seen it because it hasn't been recommended to them yet by the algorithm. So the more that you subscribe and that, the more that you throw a like up there. Thank you for all the people that are doing it. Our likes are going up every week, and I do thank you. That really helps us, and it's so easy. One button. And then please leave a comment. Tell us if you like something we did. Tell us if something was really stupid. Tell us if you like a joke that we've made. Anything. Just contribute. It'll get more community engagement going. The more comments, your comments get other comments rolling. And I know we're coming down to the end of a season here, but we've got 5 more weeks of this to do. We have between this and the CFL Outsiders that I do with GT and MJ. And this is all just, we're having so much fun. We want to end this season on a high note. We'll do some off-season stuff where appropriate to keep you engaged and hopefully hit next season with a really solid viewer base and move on up. I know, I'm always begging, but this does matter. So thank you for everyone that has subscribed, has liked, and has commented, and please keep up at it whenever you can. Till next week, Old Man, signing off.